Welcome into HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. Thank you for joining me. We are hump day. We are middle of the week, so you're getting closer to your weekend. It doesn't matter what the week is. There's always plenty to talk about when it's Arkansas Razorbacks men's basketball. That's what we do. We try to bring something daily, if not daily. We make it worth your while if we take a day off or two and load up on Intel and bring that. We've got actually kind of a monster Intel injection today is what I'm calling it. I'm seeing all these ads for Halloween and it's still 2 months away, but monster, I don't know. It's a play on Halloween. We're so far away and it's so damn hot right now. I don't know if anybody's really thinking about that. But look, there's a lot going on with the Razorbacks, especially when we talk recruiting in this 26 class. We know of 4 visits that are on the books in terms of out public. We know the dates. We've talked a lot about those. Several more that I've been able to confirm that Arkansas is actually in the finalizing stages of visit dates. I've got an update there. A lot of stuff to look at and talk about today because we've got some updates that are a little bit different than we brought in more recent segments. Can't wait. The Abdu Tore replacement. Well, we'll talk recruiting. You're always looking to whatever retention you have, whatever you do out of the portal. Arkansas doesn't supplement the roster. Calipari doesn't supplement what he's bringing in with high school players. High school players are as big a part of any of it. Of course, retention was where the foundation was in this current roster, but recruiting in the high school level is always going to be a big deal and a big piece of it. And this is no exception in this 2026 class. So a couple of things. What I'm bringing today is a combination of source intel and my latest update with the staff that is very, very, very recent. So it's just basically just got this stuff handed to me. So it's a combination of stuff. I'll be able to, affirm what the staff shared with me on some things, and other things you'll just have to figure out what information is either corroborated by staff that a source brought me or it's just standing alone on source. I'll do the best I can there. Some things I can't quite roll out and tell you exactly where it came from. Some I can. All right, so let's go through a few things. The dead period in recruiting ends today. That means players, it starts a quiet period beginning tomorrow, August 21st. It was a 17-day dead period. Now players in a quiet period can come onto your campus. Coaches still can't go out. No on campus, no in-homes, none of that. But players can come onto campus. And so I don't expect, unless something changes, Arkansas to bring anybody in through the end of the month. That includes that first football weekend for the football Hogs hosting Alabama A&M August 29th through the 31st. As it stands now, this is part of the intel, and this is corroborated with staff. As it looks right now, no visits through that weekend. So it's part of what we're bringing today. Just a little bit there to kind of as a guide of what to expect. The live recruiting period, by the way, opens back up on September 3rd, and that's when Katie bar the door. Players can not only come to campus, coaches can go to their high school campuses, whatever, go out to see them in the home visits, those kind of things. So that's not that far off. But for now, Arkansas just got back onto campus. The students began classes Monday. Here's a little bit more information and some intel for you on what that something changes. This week, the basketball team is focusing mostly on strength and conditioning work, and they'll ramp up that limited work. It'll still be limited hours per week of on-court instructions for a while, and that could ramp up as soon as next week. As soon as next week, the start of next week. So there's nothing definitive in terms of it'll exactly begin on this day, and there's nothing to say they can't change their mind. Here we are on Wednesday and do some on-court stuff either later this week or through the weekend. But as of now, the plan is strength and conditioning this week. Next week, you move into on-court work. I can tell you that the 2 7-footers that we're all talking about, I just checked, they're still not listed on the official roster over at ArkansasRazorbacks.com, but you know who they are. Elmer Zavitz, the Bosnian big man, 7-footer that's committed to Arkansas in mid-June. I think a day later, it was Paulo Samito, the 7-1 combo, 4-5, who's from Angola originally, played at West Oaks and Orlando, Florida this past year at prep school. And we know both of those players, again, committed in June. And there's just been a lot of, well, when do they arrive on campus? Well, we knew that they weren't going to go through the limited summer stuff. We got to a point where they're just expected to be on start of fall classes. What campus, I'm told, another one is expected in tomorrow. Paulo Samito, 7-1, 4-5 combo. I was told arrived on campus yesterday. got in on so Tuesday. So he has arrived. He is in Fayetteville. He is on campus. Elmir Zavich, I'm told, is expected to arrive tomorrow, Thursday. That's August 21st, if you need a date associated with that. Now, I've been asked about it because I've had a couple of people reach out to me and say, hey, I've heard both of them are already on campus. I mean, I can't speak to that other than what I got handed down from the staff, which is one's there, one arriving tomorrow. So, if there's a chance that someone shows up, gets there a little bit early, but as I'm told, not expected until tomorrow for Javit. So, we'll try to follow up with that and see what happens there. All right, nearly 6 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. We've got a lot to get to. We're just kind of getting through some of the easy stuff right now. We've done that for the most part. I'm going to throw out a couple of more things about upcoming visits in terms of just generalities. One thing is, we've mentioned this before, the nature of visits and how they're scheduled can change based on a multitude of things. Getting off the same page for a while about maybe it's NIL or something else, scheduling conflicts that arise that you didn't know when you planned it, all kinds of stuff can do that. But the 4 visit dates we know about as of now remain in a holding pattern as they've been scheduled. So you're like, well, how's that an update? Well, it is, because sometimes you know about a visit date and it's been blown out of the water and we just don't know it yet. And later we find out. So to hear status quo is actually an update. That's actually intel. But here's the caveat with that. In addition to the ones we know about and the ones they're finalizing, I'm told any of those could change for advantageous reasons. We've talked about a lot in the past how last year, when they brought in visitors through the fall for that 2025 class, it was always one official visitor in that class, and then they might have 1 or 2 other unofficial visitors on the same weekend. But typically and consistently, they gapped out those official visitors so they had their own weekend to themselves. And even when Darius A. Cup Jr. came onto campus to help recruit, remember, he'd already taken an official visit. He was already committed. He was just helping recruit. Those were unofficial visits. So this time around, it might not be the same. I'm now told that they might actually double up or more on the same OV weekend, that's on the table. And I just told you that some dates are subject to potentially change. As of now, they are set where they are. Air Fandioni, we're going to talk a little bit more about here in a minute. This is the first one we know in the chronology, the chronological order of visits that we know about, the 4 that are out in the public, some of which I brought out and some others, but they're out there, September 12th through the 14th. Football Hogs on the road that weekend. The following weekend, Jordan Smith Jr., we've talked so much about him, September 20th and the 21st. Holding pattern, that's still what those dates look like, still in the works. Nothing's backed off, nothing's changed as of now. The following weekend, Tate Kenny, another 5-star guard. September 26th to 28th, Football Hogs are finally have a game when there's an official basketball visitor. They're hosting Notre Dame. That's a big weekend. Let's keep our eyes open to see, do they add another official visitor or more for that weekend? Again, that's now on the table. It may not go like it did last year. I'm now told that. And we've talked about the possibility for that, but now I'm told, on high authority, keep an eye on that. The following weekend, the one I broke against Cole Clower, October 3rd through the 5th, that still looks good. That's still in play. So those are the 4 we know about. We have talked multiple times about other players that I know that the staff and the teams, the players camp or whoever's representing them and the player, that they're working toward finalizing visit dates. It's not just about exploring the idea. Let's see what happens and maybe we'll bring it. Maybe we'll plan a visit later. No, they're trying to iron those out. So we've gone through and we're going to jump into some of those here in a minute when we go through the intel part. So I've kind of set up the stage for what this looks like, how things could maybe alter visit dates if that ever happens. For now, the ones we know about again are on trajectory to land where they're scheduled right now. Okay, so let's move through several things. Let's start with the national #1 player, Tyron Stokes. This seems significant to me. Between a source and bouncing things off the staff, I'm at the point now where I think Arkansas and Tyron Stokes, that situation is probably the best way I can describe it is being on life support. Not dead, not being wheeled off to the mortician and then the funeral home and you're going to have a funeral, but on life support. The last time we really talked about Stokes in terms of where the recruitment was, we mentioned that we got a figure out there that we were told, and the staff has heard this figure, but nearly 4 million in NIL, 3.8. I have a source that thinks he's already, already in the color of night signed some deal with Nike, and it's just not publicly announced yet. There's been a lot of smoke that it's Kentucky. Stokes put out, a cryptic tweet yesterday with 5 colored hearts. I know most of you saw that. You had 2 reds. You're thinking Louisville, Arkansas, right? A blue for Kentucky, green probably Oregon, because that's one of the schools mentioned to visit. White, maybe Gonzaga. That's another school he's mentioned to visit. I doubt White would represent USC, another team that his mom recently talked about taking a visit to. So maybe it's those 5. Well, I have one source that just his guess on the hearts was that one of the red ones actually represented Kansas. I don't know if I buy that. I would think it might be Arkansas because he talked about visiting Arkansas back in May. We know Calipari prioritized him all the way through Nike Peach Jam, and maybe he leaves Arkansas on a Final 5 list if one actually comes out where it's not so cryptic and we know exactly which teams he's talking about. But for now, the speculation mine would be that Arkansas probably is included in there. But based on source information and my read on talking with the staff, it's not that they've completely walked away. I think it's more like where things are right now. There is not a hard charging effort to set up a visit right now. That NIL figure again. I mean, we've talked about it so much about Calipari's process, and it's to spread out NIL money to build a roster, not throw all of it at one player, no matter how good they are, and then kind of put a mess around them. And not feel good about what you've built for the next season. And so something could change here, but for now it's more like on life support than just kind of sitting in idle. If you're sitting in idle, you're ready to go from neutral and put it in gear and drive. It's not even there. It's just it's not up on blocks either. I know I'm mixing metaphors here. I'm going from medical metaphors to vehicular. But you get the point I'm making here. So something's going to have to shift significantly for that to change. And something could, I guess. I mean, I don't know how that would be or what it would be. And if it does, then we might hear of upcoming visit, something like that. But for now, no. Okay, so let's move on now from Tyron Stokes. Air Fandioni, who we just talked about. I talked to a source earlier today that spoke directly with his guardian. And that the Guardian, we've heard so much that every source I've heard, and I told you this, or most of them, was Houston. And then I had the one who said, you know what, I've heard the NIL numbers, I don't know how they got them, but they heard it from several of the top schools in the mix for Diane, and that they were comparable, which left him feeling, look, Calipari, this is advantage Calipari, especially as much as he's prioritized him, being courtside. It just seems like it is. They got the visit scheduled, yada, yada. All right, another source now telling me that Diane, after the source speaking with his camp, that someone from the camp directly said that Houston's in the lead. So I haven't quite heard it framed that way, and it just kind of weighs in with what you already believe. The reason that's intel is because it hasn't been quite that specific. You think, well, if a lot of people think Houston's in the lead, that's coming from somewhere. Maybe it's coming from his camp. Well, we're confirming that a source is saying they got that in a direct, in a conversation. They didn't get it third hand. I'm giving it to you third hand because it wasn't my conversation, but that's what a source told me. So keep an eye on it. Remember, September 12th to the 14th. That's the visit date. We'll see where that goes. I'm not convinced of anything. I'm not going to sit here and say I believe Houston's leader. A lot of people do. A lot of folks do. I got one source that likes Arkansas. Calipari likes his chances because he's scheduled a visit and spent all that time on it. So we'll see where that goes. Let's move right along. This is I consider this a significant update on Mika Mirin. We've talked about that the staff was still in it to win it. We keep telling you that. The last real intel I gave you, we know he's got a top 7. We know Arkansas's in there. We know he visited Arkansas last September. We know at the time he liked his September visit to Arkansas better than the 2 previous to Utah and Michigan. That was a year ago. A lot. And we've seen his Final 7 has North Carolina State, some other schools in there. Kentucky, kind of been back and forth on that. But what we told you is not only is the staff in it to win it, but they were eyeballing those dates that are fast approaching for the Euro Cup where Mirin is expected to compete. He did not play spring and summer basketball. So we didn't have the ability to track Arkansas staff courtside for every game. We've just had to get it from in other ways to find out, are they still in it or not? it's been real quiet other than his top 7 list, other than things you hear behind the scenes, but nothing significant. The reclass things seems like it's on the shelf, but who knows if it circles back to being back in play. But the last thing we really said about the staff on this was not only are they in it to win it, but they're eyeballing those Euro Cup dates to potentially go back overseas to monitor him, to evaluate him, and to let him know that they're still in it for him. And that we would follow up on that if we were able to confirm that that's going to happen. I'm now told that the plan is will be out to Euro Cup starting at the end of August. It goes through mid-September. So I don't know how many days they'll spend there, but that Arkansas is planning to go, and a big part of that plan is a presence for Mika. That's significant because it could have been the other way. We could have come back and said, you know what? We talked about Arkansas was looking at those dates and think about it. The team just got back on the campus. They're ramping up their practices. They're going to let go of a staff member they could be able to recruit and coach, chew gum and walk all at the same time. Right. But that's a pledge and a commitment to continue to pursue the player. Now, Chuck Martin, assistant coach, has been the one this summer that made multiple trips overseas for Arkansas's international recruiting efforts. Remember, it was Switzerland for FIBA U19, then it was Serbia for the FIBA World Eurobasket U18. I'm told it's likely not going to be Chuck Martin this time. I'm told to keep an eye on. It's likely going to be associate head coach Chen Coleman, who makes the trek over for the FIBA Euro Cup competition. I think it's FIBA. That's also part of FIBA. So either way, Mika Mirin, that's progression in your recruitment, right? So you continue to prioritize. That's the next step in that. And you also get a chance to reevaluate the player, and then you can readjust your priorities if there's something that's either really pleases your eye or vice versa, and then things could change then. But for now, the priority label remains not only intact, but progressing. All right, so that's the Mika Mirin update. For those who are wondering, class of 2026, 6'10", pushing 6'11", combo forward, very skilled, above the rim finisher, three-point shooter, can handle the ball. He's that new prototype, modern stretch 4. At the college level, he'll be a stretch 4, and maybe could help you with enough strength, and it depends on what he shows, help you at the 5 some. The pros probably a 3-4, but that's Mika Mirin. And he's a guy, when the ESPN came out with its top 25 rankings, not just for the class of 2026, but regardless of class, he was in there. Mika Mirin is in the top 25 when you add up all the classes that are, that they've got in the mix there. So that's still a pretty strong indication of some opinions of him are pretty high. Let's move on to Abdu Tore. Right after I tweeted out that I was going to do this Intel segment today, like within 2 minutes, Joe Tipton put out his top 7. So I did not have the top 7 earlier today, but it was part of the intel, only that I knew Arkansas was going to be in his top list of schools that was about to drop. That Arkansas. So I expected that, but a source told me that. Now, I have told you because Tore told me a little over a week ago, and I tweeted this out. I quoted him that yes, he's definitely going to take official visit to Arkansas, and that he was going to drop that info on Sunday, which would have been Sunday of last week, a week ago, so 10 days ago or whatever that was, and it never happened. But I also told you that I had a source outside of Tore saying, well, I guess he could get it out by Sunday, but we're still working to finalize those dates. And if it's not done by then I don't know why he would put out those dates. We've talked about all that here. This isn't, clean up on aisle 3. We've discussed this multiple times, and here we are. And we've talked, and I've continued to say in Arkansas that they're still working on getting that finalized. And at some point, Abdu's likely going to put that out. A couple of things here. This is intel for you. I am now told that the dates are finalized. His visit dates are finalized. I also know those dates. However, I cannot share those because Abdu's going to put those out. However he chooses to do it. Today, he used Joe Tipton to put out his top 7. We'll go through that list here in a second. Maybe he uses Tipton to put out his visit dates. Maybe he uses somebody else, 247 Sports. Maybe he does it on his own IG account or his Twitter account or some kind of, I don't know. I'm just told he's going to handle that. So I got to sit on that. Dates are finalized for Abdu Tore, the 6'5", 6'6" out of Notre Dame High School in Connecticut. There's been conflicting information. Is UConn really one of the top 2 teams to beat in addition to Arkansas? Is UConn kind of pulled back? I've got sources that tell me opposite things. I had one source that said Dan Hurley didn't even bother watching him play courtside in July. And then as we talked through it, they went back and looked at some stuff and corrected that. He actually had. But there may be the opinion for that source still was, well, I still don't think UConn's, is as involved there. So I guess it depends on who you talk to. But there's a lot of smoke right now for Providence in addition to Arkansas. I've said the last few times I've talked about it without fully naming Arkansas a leader. I'm like, they're right up there. If they're not the leader, they're right in the mix for that. They may be closer to being the leader with him than anybody right now that we know is coming in for visits. Maybe not. But Calipari's prioritized him. He's already been on campus, unofficial visit last October. You know this. So this is progressing. Now seemed like a sure thing that the visit was happening because the player said, I'm definitely visiting. Source said, yeah, we're just finalizing it. It's beyond that now. The dates are set. I've got the dates. Tore's going to put them out. When does he do it? Maybe he's doing it right now and I'm missing it and I'm blabbing and it's already out there. Maybe it comes later tonight, maybe some other day. It sure didn't come out Sunday before last when I was told it would. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Top 25 rated 5-star in the composite rankings. Explosive player. I think he's got a clutch gene. I've watched him play against older competition and, finish a game with a winning shot. There's a lot to like about him. The motor's always running. Really good player. And Calipari is not afraid to load up on that wing spot with athleticism and players that can translate to a first-year helper as their freshmen. We saw that with Knox and Richmond coming in together, and then bringing Sealy on top of those guys who are still there. You just keep on keeping on at that spot. But Tore's one of those guys. We keep an eye on it, this is all getting to be very interesting to me because there's other stuff going on here. When you talk about, let's go back to UConn and that talking point. I said there's mixed messaging. One source said, they're really prioritizing Cole Clower. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about him and some others in a second because he's got that October 3rd through the 5th visit to Arkansas, right? But we know he's got 6 other visits scheduled. They're all public now. And UConn is one of those. And I'm told Hurley, and that's a wing player, a different player, kind of player than Tore, but a wing player. And a source has told me that they think that Hurley is prioritizing Clower. And it's kind of one of those either or situations. And Clower, this same source thinks that maybe UConn leads for Clower, who's a perimeter shooter, 6'7", maybe pushing 6'8", a small forward, a big wing. I mentioned before there may be a pathway for him at some point to be a 3-4 at the college level, but certainly a big, small forward or big wing. And so if that's true, then maybe that gives Arkansas the inside track to Tore. Again, Providence, I'm hearing in this top 7 for Tore. It's Arkansas, UConn, Florida State, Maryland, Oregon, Providence, and Louisville. Most of those teams I've heard of, attached to his name as far as programs that he's serious about, and then now they've made the official top 7 or final 7 list. So here we go. But again, the visit. Let's see if he dumps the visits all at once. If he piecemeals it as he goes, who knows? But again, I'm told for now, don't expect any visitors. We know 4 again that are after this late August opener for football and all that. And now that tomorrow starts this, quiet period where players could technically start showing up tomorrow if you had it planned that way. But don't expect that. Things can change, but don't expect it. All right, so we've got our eyes open. Where does this go? Let's get through everybody else. We mentioned Jordan Smith Jr.'s visit date, September 20th through the 21st. Top 2 rated. I've got him second in the country. 5-star out of Fairfax, Virginia, September 20th through 21st. Tay Kenny, the 26th to 28th. I just ran through those a few minutes ago. Just remind everybody, Cole Clower, October 3rd through the 5th. Holding pattern on those. Right now, those are the dates still. I guess something could change. I'm told to keep an eye on it maybe, but that's where it is right now. And always remember, too, on visits, not that they'll necessarily change. Sometimes they'll go away. Things change in recruiting, and sometimes you might clue in on the idea that you're not really in it, and you're not going to waste, you're not, or you might think, well, we might be in second right now, but we want to consummate the visit, get them here, and we think we can overcome that. All kinds of things are still in flux there because of those things. So just remember that some of these may not happen, but they're scheduled to. When we go through the recent reclass, Baba Aladat and top 10 rated 5-star now, even number 1 in 27, I've got him top 10 in this class, 26. What we've been telling you going back a week remains the same with him. Caleb Holt, I've got him ranked tied for second with Jordan Smith Jr. in the 26 ranking, 6'5" guard out of the Atlanta area. Really versatile guy. Chase Foster, a late offer by Arkansas, top 40 rated, 4-star, 6'8" forward out of North Carolina. And then Brandon McCoy Jr. It's been really quiet on him. The talk is, well, it's wide open for him. But Calipari really made a point of being courtside for all of his games in the July sessions because he didn't play in the spring, didn't play in May. Chuck Martin overseas, that was one of the players, and the staff told me then, yeah, he's one of our priorities. That was the U19, remember, back in July. So I'm told all of those guys, what I've said before is Arkansas is working to finalize visit dates with all of these guys, Baba Aladdin, Caleb Holt, Chase Foster, and we did not say that about Brandon McCoy yet. Those other three we have. That continues to be the case. And you go, well, how's that intel? Things change so fast in recruiting. What I was told a week ago might be on a different track now or just completely vanished. It's important to know Arkansas is working to still working to finalize visits with those players that we've said that's the case. It continues to be the case. Brandon McCoy Jr., Arkansas still considers him a priority target. While there's no specific wording of finalizing a visit date, they are working toward, I guess you could say, efforting a visit. So it's a little bit different, but it's a little bit of an update too because he's still a priority, and which means get him on campus. And that's what's being worked on. The other ones, it's not just working on convincing them to come to campus. It's more like their parties are agreed they're going to visit. It's just getting those dates lined out, and they're not finished yet. And then for those to go public. So that's a lot of information. That's a lot of different players that we've talked about over and over again, but we're jamming it all into one report today because it's all class of 2026. It's all prescient. It's all forthcoming soon. And you're about to step a toe out of this dead period after the strike of midnight tonight, and then you're out. So things could really start moving, shaking, breaking, and going fast. And then what we said today, something could change, and now we got to get back and not correct it, but give you the new update. Okay, so a couple of other things here I think that are interesting. Let me look here. Actually, one more thing. I asked about J.J. Andrews. Of course, he's already committed to Arkansas. He's playing. That's all, that's really a done deal. I'm never absolute about anything because he's still got to sign the paperwork in November. That's going to happen. But I asked about JJ as far as what's his involvement in all this? Who's he trying to help bring to campus? And I'm going to give you a one-word quote. Everyone. So he's recruiting everyone. Everybody that we're talking about, he's in on everyone. He's trying to help secure everybody that Arkansas has prioritized and pursuing. Now, you're saying, well, McPherson, they're not going to went through 10 or more names. They're not going to bring all of those. No, but you recruit all of them with all your might. Once you get to a point where they maintain as a priority at this late in the stage, you know that you've cast a wide enough net where you go from just having J.J. Andrews on board and your goal every year is 3 or 4. So that means 2 or 3 more. You cast a wide enough net, you prioritize enough players that you land in that sweet spot where you want to be. Then you can make determinations. Do we want to exceed that? Are there other factors with some of these players, whether it's NIL or whatever it is, and you're eyeballing possibilities for another way to do something in the next recruiting cycle where you backed off of it a little bit and don't go with all 4 or 3 even and just do 2. All that, but I'll be surprised if Arkansas doesn't get at least 3 and mildly surprised if they don't end up with 4 out of this high school class. So at least 3, I'd be surprised if they don't get there. And then mildly surprised if not 4. That's based on not only source information, but the updates from the staff. And so there we are. 29 minutes in, we're going to escape out of here under 30. Thanks for being here. I'm Kevin McPherson. If you haven't done it already, please hit subscribe, like, and share. Helps us out. If I asked for that earlier already, I apologize for the repeat on that. I put things on repeat a lot. Didn't get to any comments today. If something big breaks, I don't see that happening tonight. We'll jump back on here. Probably be back on sometime tomorrow. That's the plan. I've got other stuff to go through, including more intel on other stuff that we'll get to. But I really wanted to have all of 2026 and the significant stuff in one report today. I hope that was good for you. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Be good in all your endeavors. Appreciate all of you. We'll see you soon.